Hello. How are you, Ben and Claire? We are back.
I am feeling funky. Do you know why I'm feeling funky?
I have simply no idea.
It's because I love our wonderful theme tune.
You do now, do you?
I do. I've been tapping my foot and bobbing my head to it all the way.
Excellent. If you too, listener, like our funky theme tune, it is called Carter Wants a Drink. It is part of the Consequences of Courage project and is available to listen without us talking all over it.
Download it.
No, it's not available to download yet.
Don't download it.
It's available to listen.
Listen
on
to
our
it.
SoundCloud
Open a
page.
bottle of vodka. Invite some of your friends round and just get funky.
And bob along with other Bulldogz theme tunes that are used in our various programs and other podcasts you can listen to as well. Previous episodes of this program and other episodes of other programs.
Stop what you're doing and do all of that instead.
Excellent. Well done, Ben.
No,
Thank you
we
for
want
that.
them to keep
Well,
listening.
finish listening to this first and then do all those other things.
We
Get
are-
a pen and pencil. Write that list down. Go back. Right. What was this? This is about 10 seconds on, so you need to rewind 10 seconds, listen to that, write it down. When you finish listening to this podcast, go and do those things. Claire, what are we talking about today?
So, God. So, as we all know, as you can tell from listening to us, the British are just a little bit weird.
Weird, mad, unusual, handsome. These are just some of the adjectives people use from other places in the world to describe us.
So, today we're going to be talking about some of the quirky ways that the British like to celebrate festivals.
Quirky, I love that word. Quirky, yes. But we have a lot of quirky customs, and that's what we're going to be talking about, right? Quirky customs and festivals all across Britain. Merrick, I believe you're going to kick off.
It's great that you use the phrase "kick off" there, Ben, because yes, I'm going to introduce you to something known as a Shin Kicking competition.
What is that?
It is a competition where you kick people's shins.
What is a shin?
The shin is the part of your lower leg where I believe it's where the bone is the least protected in the human body.
It's closest to the skin.
Yeah, the front of your lower leg. And if you are, obviously, if you play football, you wear shin pads to protect that part of the leg. And if you've ever been kicked in the shin, you know how ludicrously painful it can be. So this is apparently a popular game in an area of England in the southwest called the Cotswolds, and it is part of their Olympic. Please note, Olympic Olympic Games, established early in the, wait for it, 17th century. On the spring bank holiday, which I believe is May Day, is that right? May the 1st?
Yeah,
yes?
that's right.
May the 1st,
In Chipping Campden, in the Cotswolds, contestants gather, wear white coats, and face each other, holding onto the collar of their opponent, and then repeatedly kick each other in the shins.
Madness.
It is rather, yes.
How do you win this ridiculous game?
By resisting the urge to concede to pain, I believe. It obviously requires agility. You have to maintain holding on to the other person's collar. So you can't back away. You're there. You're there within shin kicking reach. And if you can't keep up with or sustain that level of pain, you simply cry the rather bizarre word sufficient. You yell sufficient or yelp sufficient, and that informs those watching and your kicky that you have conceded defeat.
And you say this is part of the Olympic Games. Is there any kind of way that you can practice for this bizarre form of the Olympics?
Well, it's a fair question. I imagine sort of pain tolerance and the ability to keep your balance are probably fairly important parts of the training regimen. But legend would have it that people used to prepare themselves by hitting their shins with hammers.
My God.
Yes, that sounds obscenely painful. And also some delightful cheating would take place where people would put steel caps into their boots or their shoes delivering a heftier whack to their victim where they were playing.
Ouch.
Jinx.
Touch wood.
Exactly.
I will now demonstrate on air by kicking Claire on the shin.
You're not going to reach me from there.
She's too quick. She got away.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, I possibly must point out that I can't endorse Ben's approval of domestic violence there. Bulldog in no way endorses his behaviour, and he'll be soundly punished by a good, hefty kicking to the shin later. Claire, would you like to tell us about something from way up north?
Yep, so I'm going further north. Quite a
Icky
lot
thump. Is there
further
further north? Is it further north than that?
A lot further north.
Icky thump, don't
Way
say that.
up.
I've got to do the vocabulary for this.
Way up to the Shetland Islands.
Now that is north.
Yeah, it's almost closer to Norway than it is to Scotland.
Precisely.
So I'm going to talk about a festival which is called Uphellia.
Okay.
Uphellia. This is a festival which originated in the 1880s, not 1980s. And it's celebrated on the last Tuesday in January of every year.
Okay.
Yep.
And what does that celebration include?
So
Shin kicking?
No, this is rather less violent.
Oh.
It basically consists of 800 men, not women, because it's a Viking festival.
Ah.
And famously, the Vikings had no women.
Well, I think women were not allowed to participate in this type of event.
Yeah.
So basically, 800 men who are dressed in full Viking attire.
Clobber. That's another vocabulary
Dress.
solution for
What
you
is
there, Ben.
Viking clobber? Now, I'm just going to add something here, because most people, when they buy like a Viking costume, they buy those helmets with the horns on. Now, as we educated
False.
people know,
The Viking helmets didn't have
they
horns.
didn't have horns on them at all. It's a modern misconception.
It is also unclear as to whether Vikings, as a rule, wore helmets.
No, because they were warriors.
Their kings certainly had decorative helmets and face masks, which were worn on their journey into the afterlife, which is, I think, where the misnomer has come from.
Skipping back to this very interesting festival you're telling us about, you said it's called Uphellia. What does that mean? Do you know what that means? Any idea? No? I thought it was Scottish. You're a Scottish person.
Yeah, but I don't speak Gaelic.
Oh, okay.
Is it Gaelic? Is it Uphellia, or is it some sort of Nordic or Viking tongue infused inflection? Ben, stop putting the poor girl off her stride.
Well, no, 'cause
she's not allowed to attend. She's a woman.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so you're just observing from a distance.
We merely
A very
asked her.
far distance.
Yeah, we merely asked her to cover festivals up north. We didn't ask her to attend them. Maybe
This
we
is
haven't
true.
got the budget. We haven't got the budget to send Claire to Shetland.
Well, here we are, right? So we got this big group of men dressed like Vikings, and what exactly do they do next?
Okay, so they're led by a man, obviously, called Geyser Jarl. He's the head of the festival, and he leads these men marching through the streets of Lerwick, which is the capital of Shetland.
Mm-hmm.
And they carry blazing torches. So every man in the festival has a blazing torch. They march through the town, through the main streets, towards the city centre,
Mm-hmm.
where there
is
is
Lerwick a city? Does it have a cathedral?
well, town centre. I'm being a bit Spanish, where town doesn't exist. And they get to the centre where there's a longboat, a Viking-style longboat, to which they set fire.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is in the Shetland Islands, once a year, in the middle of the coldest part of the year, at the end of January, the men all put on Viking costumes, march with pieces of burning wood, and then burn a wooden boat.
Yes.
We'll put some links to some videos on YouTube.
It is an
for this,
impressive
because
sight.
it is. It sounds a little bit duller than the kicking of shins, but it is. Yeah, it's very
I think it's
beautiful.
much more beautiful though,
They
because
spend.
there's no light at that time of year. Because obviously in January, even in Glasgow, which is significantly further south, it's dark by 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So you imagine in the Shetland Islands, there's very, very little light.
And
So it's got to be some sight seeing these 800 people marching with torches.
I believe
in the pitch black.
the local community take it quite seriously as well, don't they? Spend all year preparing for the festival, and the costumes are very elaborate, and the
Imagine
boat.
building the longboat as well would take a year.
And then they burn it. So
and start
what
all
is
over
the
again.
point, you may ask?
In answer to Ben's earlier question about what up Heliar means, it is believed that in the dictionary, or in the etymological dictionary of Scottish language, 1818, up is used in the sense of something being at an end, and derives from an Old Norse word, upi or upi, where heli refers to a holy day or festival. So you could literally say that up Heliar means get
like
up,
final.
Get up, it's finished.
Yeah, it's the final holy day of the well, not that it's at the beginning of the year, but I guess it's related to the season or something like that.
Precisely. Obviously, lots of midwinter festivals tend to have a reference to fire and rebirth and renewal at the longest and darkest point of the year. There are the old pre-Christian festivals to the god Beltane, which involves setting fire to things and dancing around drinking alcoholic liquid, which is much like what happens on a Saturday in Glasgow, really.
Exactly.
But with Buckfast.
Well,
Ben, would you like to take us further south?
yes, we're going down south to Gloucester, to I think what is probably one of the, out of all of the festivals that we're going to speak about, I think this is the most internationally recognised. You get people coming from Australia, Japan.
Well, when you say
to
that, just
participate.
very quickly, am I under the impression that up Heliar, if you are a tourist, if you're not a local, you're not allowed to participate?
You're not allowed to, it's only
Is that
local
right?
people.
As far
Yeah.
as I'm aware,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So even if we sent Claire to the Shetland Islands, she wouldn't be able to.
You can
to carry a
spectate.
torch. You can spectate.
Exactly.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to
Meanwhile-
carry a torch because I'm female.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, down south we have a much more inclusive
Participatory. Yes.
mentality. I mean, we're happier. It's where all the money is down south anyway. So we just got a more positive out. You can't capture on audio the way that Claire is looking at me right now, but it is.
It's
It
pretty
is-
much how I'm always looking at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Disgust.
a look of
Disdain.
derisory disgust and disdain. If we want to keep on using some wonderful vocabulary, we're just creating more work for Ben
Oh,
afterwards. So
God,
that's
yeah,
great.
that's
That's
true.
fine.
Yeah.
Right, let's keep it basic. So I'm taking us down to Gloucester, to Cooper's Hill, the cheese rolling festival. Well, it's not really a festival; it's an event. Most people, I think, have probably either seen a video of this or they've read about it somewhere. Basically, what happens is all of the local people gather at Cooper's Hill on, again, the spring bank holiday. The spring bank holiday, which is, I think, is very common around the British Isles that we have festivals around this time, because I think they're mostly related to pagan festivals.
They do tend to normally involve dancing around a maypole or a mulberry bush.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about the origins of this festival. They do have pagan origins, and it comes from the custom of throwing objects down the hill, which is something to do with fertility. It's to celebrate or promote fertility.
And again, a nice little tying reference to Up Heliar, wasn't it, about throwing burning brushwood down the hill to
Yeah, that's
signify
right.
rebirth or renewal?
Yeah.
So do we know how old this festival is? Or this tradition?
Well, as a pagan festival, it goes back
Pre-calendar.
To, yeah,
Pre-calendar.
I mean, we can't even.
I think you've reached the limitations of Ben's knowledge on the subject very efficiently, Claire. Well done.
Anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this cheese rolling festival. All of the local people go to the top of the hill. I say local; it started as a local festival, but in recent years it has become more popular. In fact, a 27-year-old American man and a 39-year-old Japanese man won the first four races in 2013. So not so long ago. We can see that it's attracting people from all over the world. You go to the top of this hill, they throw a Gloucester cheese.
It is often slightly misunderstood. It's called the cheese rolling, but this cheese is, to use some wonderful vernacular, lobbed with great force off the top of this hill,
the
and off it goes.
The cheese gets a 1 second head start, which is enough time for it to gather a speed of up to 70 miles per hour.
That is 112 kilometres an hour for those of you who don't
Thank you
use
very
English.
much
Yes.
for your mathematical mind. Did you see the matrix then, the conversion rate?
Russell Crowe's got nothing on me, I
Yeah,
tell
he's
you.
like a computer, Merrick, he is.
Well, this £9 double Gloucester cheese is lobbed from the top of the hill, and it picks up a veritable speed of 70 miles per hour, and the people then set off after it. Because the hill is so steep, most people immediately fall flat on their face and continue to tumble and roll to the bottom, where they are collected by St John's ambulance and taken to hospital.
Well, the people of Gloucester should count themselves lucky that they're allowed to make it to hospital. This is not the fate that befalls the Earl of Rone on the same spring bank holiday weekend in the village of Combe Martin in North Devon. Would you like to know more?
Yes, please.
This is a very surreal event. It was once banned in 1837 due to, here's another one for Ben's beautiful vocabulary list, licentiousness and drunken behaviour. It's all that cider they have down in Devon. The whole weekend, 600 villagers, and they play a collection of characters, including the hobby horse, grenadiers, which are a type of soldier, and the fool, along with normal villagers, and they all set out to hunt the Earl of Rone.
Right, what they're hunting the Earl of Rone, who is a character also, and what happens when they find him? What takes place next?
Well, because it has a narrative, this festival builds up to a crescendo on the final day when the Earl of Rone is found. I don't quite know if the Earl of Rone has been found earlier. Who gets to play the Earl of Rone? This is all lost to me because I am not from the deep southwest. But apparently he is found on the final day, and then this is almost like the Passion of the Christ. Get this: he is mounted back to front on a donkey, paraded through the village, where he is repeatedly shot by the soldiers. I don't believe this is actual shooting. I think this is probably
Pretend
shooting. Shooting. He is then, it gets weirder, he is then repeatedly revived by the fool, only to be shot again. He is eventually taken to the beach where, guess what, he's shot. And this time he's not revived and thrown into the sea.
Delightful.
Is this based on some sort of historical character, or?
Yeah, who is this guy?
This is very insightful observations from you there, Claire. It is believed that the Earl of Rone is a reference to Earl Hugh O'Neill, Earl of Tyrone, who was forced to flee from Ireland and shipwrecked in a local bay near Combe Martin in 1607. He hid in the woods, surviving on ship's biscuits, but was eventually captured by a group of grenadiers and killed.
It's like something out of Game of Thrones.
I was going to think Hunger Games, yeah. But this is obviously celebrated annually in this village, the killing of an Irishman, with lots of cider and ribaldry. Took a bit of a dark turn, that one. Does anyone want to cheer the mood up a little bit without getting into too much muddy water?
Sure, why not? I'm going to take us... Well done, Merrick. Nice link. I'm going to take us to another part of the UK. This time we're going to Wales.
Wales? Look, you boyo.
Boyo. That was a terrible Welsh accent. I'm sorry, Welsh people.
I know. I'm sorry too. I'm not
so,
really.
My tradition or festival is called bog snorkeling.
Say what? What is a bog and what is snorkeling?
So a bog is some sort of mixture between a stream and a swamp.
Really? A stream? I would have thought that a bog was pretty much standing, stagnant water rather than running water.
That's why it says a mixture between a bog and a swamp.
It's waterlogged.
You said a mix between a stream. Do you want me to go back and reread you the... You're doing the transcript, Claire.
So, yeah, a mixture between a bog and a swamp. Stream and a swamp.
But it's not running water, is it? It's stagnant, still water.
This is what I mean by it's
like
a mixture, because they tend to be long, similar to a stream, but like a swamp, they have stagnant water.
Okay.
So it's a mixture between a stream and a swamp.
Okay.
So it's mud and water.
Mud and water.
Perfectly clear.
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, basically, people would be snorkeling,
Which is?
snorkeling is a sport which people tend to do in the sea or in the ocean, which consists of swimming close to the surface of the water with a tube in your mouth, which is out of the water so that you can breathe.
Okay. Something that normally you associate with holidays to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Or
Much
crystal
more
clear blue
pleasant
water
than
of the
this
Mediterranean.
this activity. They also
Not bogs.
in snorkeling you also wear flippers on your feet
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
so that you can move more gracefully through the water.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, these people are snorkeling in this bog, which is horrible, cold, muddy water. And it's a race. They have to swim from one end of the bog to another. The bog is 60 yards or 55 meters long, and they have to do it from one side to the other and back again.
Okay, so that's 120 yards.
120 yards or 110 meters.
Yeah. Okay, and this is relatively new compared to our other festivals, isn't it? It started a little bit before I was born.
In 1976, in Llanrwyd, Wales.
I would apologise to Welsh people on behalf of Claire for that attempted mangled pronunciation.
Llanrwyd.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure.
Wales, which is in Wales.
I think it's pronounced.
Clen.
Just-
Just to explain to people who have no familiarity with Wales, double L in Welsh is pronounced somewhere like a C and an L or a K and an L.
Something like that, yeah.
Don't go to Wales. Every time they speak to you, they spit in your face. It's horrible. Good job it's always raining.
Look you. Come on. That's very unfair to our Welsh cousins.
I have Welsh cousins.
I hope they don't listen to this.
Yeah, me too. Anyway,
They're probably too busy practicing in the bog.
So it started. This tradition started as a result, as many weird, crazy traditions, of an over-the-bar, probably drunken conversation.
I love these. I love these. These are great traditions. That crazy traditions that start over people being drunk.
I bet, right? I could. In a bog, right? I reckon I could probably just
get there and back,
swim across that.
I could totally do it faster than you.
Yeah.
Totally. I would get there.
I can see how this came about.
To the bog.
But my the thing that really tells me that I would never participate in this is the pivotal rule that you're not allowed to use conventional swimming strokes. So you're not allowed to use the top half of your body to stroke through the bog. You have to use only the power of your legs with the
Flipper
flippers.
power.
But that unfortunately means, through the physics of movement, that the front half of your body begins to descend. So you are not going to be snorkeling through the bog with fresh, clean,
You're going to be drinking
Welsh
bog
air.
water.
You're going to be swallowing bog water. So I would suspect that many people fail to make the complete course. Probably rise like some sort of monster from the bog, going. Blah!
A few people go missing every year, I reckon.
I would, but yes, that's probably quite the possibility. I'm sure we will have some videos to link in the comments below to watch people snorkeling through a bog. But Ben,
Yes.
you're going to tell us about something else that started after the drunken bet.
Alcohol is the fluid that unites us all in Britain. It's how we socialise. It's how we come up with our brilliant ideas.
How most of us get married.
Exactly. How
most
most of us
are
are
born.
This festival that I'm about to tell you about came from exactly the same place. A drunken evening, specifically on the way back from the pub in 1983. Some people say local genius called Dave Kelland and one of his friends had been imbibing ale in the Normandy Arms, and on a miserable Sunday afternoon walking home, Dave needed to relieve himself.
Where is this? But where are we?
We are in Black Ortons,
Which is
in the south of England.
well, okay.
Check out the link below.
Check out the link below. Excellent.
So he was walking home. He was full of beer. He needed to relieve himself, and he did so on a local patch of grass, on the green, as we say, the local green. And he was surprised to find that where he relieved himself, lots of worms started to rise to the surface.
Now, this is a mental image which intrigues me. You are, shall we say, 7 sheets to the wind.
Yep.
And rather inebriated, you have staggered slightly from the path to urinate over a patch of grass, and suddenly your fertile, observant mind spots worms emerging from the ground whence you have urinated.
Yeah, and Dave was no fool. I mean, he realised that he
Sounds like he's a complete genius.
he
obviously,
he realised he had a superpower, and he wanted to share that with the world. So he came up with this festival, which is called Worm Charming. Basically, every year, everybody gets together. Local people get together. This is not so international. It's kind of like a local loony fest. They get together and they try and charm worms up out of the ground. I'll give you the details of the competition. These are the definition is you have.
So the
one
first thing you
team-
need to say to people is that there's it's not all the locals go out and relieve themselves on grass.
No.
It's moved on from its origins.
It's about your ability to make the worms rise to the surface using whatever means you prefer. But
Except
obviously,
urination.
yeah, except urination, it's got to be publicly decent because children are present. Each team has a 1 meter square plot, and they begin to worm up. This is doing whatever you can to make the worms come to the surface without digging. You're not allowed to interfere with the ground by pulling them up out of the ground. And every team has 15 minutes allocated to get the most amount of worms to the surface. Now, these are the rules of worm charming.
You have 5 minutes preparation time. You're worming up when you do your little worm dance.
Yep.
And then you have 15 minutes to tempt or to charm the worms out of the
Yep.
ground.
The rules are simple. Each team has 3 members: a charmerer, a pickerer, and a counterer. Now, a charmerer...
And they are not mistakes in Ben's pronunciation. It's not because he's been drinking some local fluids. It's actually how they are pronounced.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
if you are slightly drunk.
It's part of the quirkiness
A
that we
charmerer,
mentioned.
a pickerer, and a counterer.
The charmerer is there to charm the worms. The pickerer is there to pick the worms, and the counterer is there to count the worms.
Because obviously the charmerer and the pickerer are too drunk to be able to count.
Exactly. So you have 5 minutes of worming up, and then 15 minutes worm charming. Any team or competitor caught cheating will be publicly humiliated and almost certainly disqualified. These are the official worm charming rules. The international judge's decision is final, and all worms must be returned unharmed to the ground after the competition.
And what do the winners get?
Respect and a pat on the back.
A pint at the bar and the right
Maybe
to
a pint.
urinate on the village green.
There's probably some kind of worm-shaped trophy involved as well, I should imagine.
That sounds slightly unfortunate, to be honest.
Bag of Watsits.
A bag of Watsits, fair enough. So there you have it. We've dipped our little toe into the very, very deep pool of bizarre and unusual celebrations and practices around the British Isles. We almost certainly will return to this topic again because it is rather entertaining, and as Claire and I have both enjoyed, it gives Ben lots of vocabulary to work on when he does the vocabulary sheet.
Please do use the vocabulary because it's going to take a large part of my free time to produce.
Jolly good. So there you go. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.